was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey guys, I'm so glad you're here with me today. We're so far, as I'm watching, we're about 160 viewers, so smash that like button right away so that YouTube shows the stream to more people. That's how it works. YouTube's algorithm, they want to see that there's some excitement and action going on before they'll show anyone that we're live. So smash that like button, do your part. It's so easy, takes just a second. And also share the stream everywhere on all your social media. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. It's my first time doing the Sunday Super Chat live stream marathon, and I'm excited. We have some really important topics to talk about today. Some tough stuff, some disappointing stuff, some cringy stuff, some hopeful stuff. So we'll go through a lot today. I also want to tell you that Jordan and Anat are away on a much needed mini trip. So that's where Jordan is, and he will be back, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday. So send them like good vibes, that they have a great trip. And of course we will miss Jordan's important reporting, but hopefully I can kind of hold down the fort a bit while he's away. And let me wait until a couple more, well, hopefully more than a couple more people stream on in. I also want to remind you guys that this is a super chat. One of, our main way of staying afloat, of being a company, is through our membership, statuscoup.com/join. But a huge way that we're able to keep reporting is by super chats. So please, this is a Sunday Super Chat marathon live stream. Keep your questions coming, your comments coming. Leave super chats, leave super chat stickers. It helps pump me up for this what will hopefully be good long live stream. Someone asked who the singer is. Who asked that? Let's see. I can't. Oh, Michael Williams asked who the singer is. It's Jordan's friend Carmen, and it's a song called Carmen, I believe. So pretty cool. Schulte says the song gives me hope in our independent news people. Hello to everyone who is saying hi. JK, starting us off in the super chat. Thank you so much. $5 in the super chat. Jen, I need to know what your skincare routine is. Well, nobody asked Jordan that. I'll tell you though, I actually started using Ole Henriksen's skin balancing line, and I use IT Cosmetics Miracle Water and their, like, they call it this like super cream. I don't know what it is. Anyway, that's it. and some full coverage foundation. Thank you, Canvas Dancer. All right, so we're almost up to 200 viewers now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. We're up to 147 likes, but I think that we can get to 200. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. Oh, Cirrus, another super chat. Cirrus 1976, $5 in the super chat. Never give up. Our time will come. Stay strong. You know, that's really good, a good hopeful message, because so many people are feeling despondent right now. It seems like nothing is going our way. We don't have Bernie. Bernie is unfortunately not showing any power right now. It's really, really disappointing. And with the lack of like any sort of relief bill being decided on between the Republicans and the Democrats, that's really discouraging. It's the Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein stuff. It seems like nothing good is happening right now. So that's a really, really good message. Thank you so much for leaving a super chat. Keep those super chats coming. Oh, let me back up for a couple days. So I've been covering pretty frequently the Ghislaine Maxwell news. So the gist of it is that Ghislaine Maxwell's, of course, in jail. She has been since July 2nd. And there have been all sorts of back and forth between her camp and Virginia Roberts Giuffre's camp. And the judge agreed to unseal documents that would contain testimony from Virginia Roberts Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell. So on Thursday, we were kind of hopeful because we actually got some of those documents. I was skeptical that we would see any documents at all. Unfortunately, it only contained Virginia Roberts Giuffre's part or side or testimony and some other stuff. You know, I did a video yesterday showing you some things that were on Jeffrey Epstein's message pads, some more from the flight log, some more testimony from other alleged victims, but we didn't have Ghislaine's testimony. And that's really where I suspect we'll learn some things that go beyond what we already know. So I have some bad news. We thought that the judge was only going to delay her part of the release until Monday. That would be tomorrow. Unfortunately, it's not gonna come Monday. So let's dive into that story. Really, I'm really disappointed, but I of course expected this to happen. So this is out of the Tampa Bay Times. Epstein confidant Ghislaine Maxwell wins fight to keep record sealed. For now. Maxwell, already facing federal criminal charges, is also fighting to keep secret her deposition from a 2015 lawsuit. She won another round in that case. So this was published yesterday. Ghislaine Maxwell's controversial deposition from a 2015 lawsuit will remain sealed until at least late September, after a federal appeals court agreed late Friday to hear a request to block the release of the deposition by the accused sex trafficker and alleged madam to disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. The action by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit effectively stops the release, scheduled for Monday, of a deposition given by Maxwell and another one she once blocked involving a mysterious person known only as J. Doe 1. We now, of course, know that Virginia Roberts Giuffre is Jane Doe 3. Maxwell's appeal will be heard September 22nd. I don't know on what planet Ghislaine Maxwell's team needs until September 22nd to file an appeal. And that's only the day that her appeal will be heard. That could even be pushed back further. Why? We're at the start of August here, so it's essentially, about 2 months that we're going to have to wait for even the appeal. Originally, the judge in this case said that Ghislaine's team had to file something within the week. So a week from this past Thursday is when she said, okay, your team has a week to file an appeal about me unsealing these documents, all of the documents, including Ghislaine Maxwell's part. So now it's going to take 2 months, and now this judge has granted these extra 2 months. Why? It doesn't make any sense. It's completely unnecessary to wait that long. And It's really just yet another injustice that this document unsealing might not happen. Ghislaine Maxwell's team is also saying a variety of very ridiculous things to try to discredit Virginia Roberts Giuffre, and just very slimy, disgusting stuff. If Ghislaine Maxwell is innocent, why does she need to trash the other side? Why doesn't she just, you know, show her own evidence? Why doesn't she just, you know, say, let us know, like, why are you innocent, Ghislaine? There's so much evidence on the other side, so much evidence that she's guilty, testimony that she's guilty. Not only of, a lot of people just say that Ghislaine was Jeffrey Epstein's madam, that she was procuring girls for Jeffrey, but that underplays what we now know, that allegedly Ghislaine Maxwell was also taking place in the rape, assault, sexual assault, abuse of young girls herself. So she's a very disgusting person. She's also a very powerful person. Jeffrey Epstein, incredibly powerful. So these two powerful forces were allegedly working to procure young girls, not women. I actually had some people in the comments of a couple of my YouTube videos about Ghislaine Maxwell say, they're not young girls, they're women. No, they're not women. They're just not. 15, 16, 17, no, they're not women. They're not adults. They're young girls. That's just it. So if you disagree, bye-bye, see the door, or don't watch my stuff. That's it. All right, let's go back here. The release of the documents stems from a pleading by the Miami Herald on behalf of its investigative reporter, Julie K. Brown. And Julie K. Brown, I just want to say, has done a phenomenal job of reporting on this case. She's a huge, huge part of the reason why the case has made as much progress as it has. And also kudos to the Miami Herald. There are very few news outlets, especially local news outlets, that will fund this type of investigative reporting, the filing of court requests and things like that. So definitely kudos to them. So Julie K. Brown, whose Perversion of Justice series in November 2018 spotlighted how Epstein escaped justice in 2008 despite overwhelming evidence that he had sexually abused women and underage girls. Lawyers for the Herald filed a motion Friday opposing any further delay on the document release. The district court made specific, well-reasoned findings on the record, determining that Ms. Maxwell's deposition testimony, among other judicial records, should be unsealed, argued Christine N. Walls with Holland and Knight. To overturn the district court's ruling, Ms. Maxwell will need to show that the court abused its discretion. She cannot do so. U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska this week ordered the unsealing and release of dozens of documents. Let's see here. From a now settled defamation suit involving Virginia Giuffre, who claims Maxwell brought her and other underage girls to Epstein, who sexually abused them and trafficked them to powerful men. Preska chided Maxwell's lawyers for delays and shot down 2 attempts Thursday to slow the release of all documents, which then began trickling out late Thursday night. Now in federal detention in Brooklyn after her July 2nd arrest on federal charges, Maxwell appealed the unsealing of a deposition she gave in the 2015 defamation suit because it is the basis for the perjury charges brought against her in the Southern District of New York. Her lawyers argued before Preska, without presenting proof, that lawyers for Giuffre improperly shared the deposition with federal prosecutors. The broad outlines of the deposition are known. Maxwell is said to have been obstructive, refusing to answer questions about the sexual habits of Epstein or her own personal life. In the transcript of a deposition of Giuffre released Thursday night, the Epstein accuser said under oath that Maxwell lured her from a job at now President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club to become a masseuse for Epstein. Giuffre alleged Maxwell groomed her and others to be sexual playthings for Epstein and friends. Then it talks about the charges against Maxwell. Her lawyers in the civil suit suggested that the deposition had been released to the government by Giuffre's lawyers in violation of a protective order barring its release to law enforcement, suggesting that Maxwell's lawyers might try to challenge the perjury charges she faces in the criminal case. Giuffre's lawyers rejected the accusation as completely and utterly false. So if we know that Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer certain questions in court, you know, that about her and Epstein's sexual habits, that makes me again ask why. If you're so innocent, why not just answer? Maybe call me naive. I realize that people have the right to invoke the Fifth or, you know, whatever, but Ghislaine Maxwell's actions do not scream innocence to me at all. In no way. Let's see. Maxwell's counsel made no effort to contact us before making these serious charges, nor, as we understand it, did they make any effort to check with the government, Giuffre's lawyers wrote. And it talks about, you know, the back and forths. And okay, I think that for this article is just about it. So Ghislaine Maxwell won a major victory here. She got the courts to delay the release of this important part of the testimony. On one hand, this testimony might just contain, you know, non-answers. It might not give us any insight at all. But I do have to wonder, you know, if there truly is nothing of note in this testimony of Ghislaine Maxwell's, why are they fighting so hard to block it? Why are they doing everything they can to try to block it? And why have they been given until September 22nd to, you know, for the appeal to be heard? These delays, I think, are just a way of, you know, stopping the release overall. Like, they're going to probably find another reason either to not unseal these documents after all, or to delay, you know, kick the can down the road. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Let me check in with you guys and read the messages here. We have 283 watching now. Smash the like button. I want this to be interactive, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's really disappointing to me that these delays have happened. Really upsetting. Oh, Colin's in the super chat and says members will get to see a new video I did. That's exciting. And that also reminds me, Jordan has done a new video as well for members, and I'll post it right after I get off doing this live stream. So I don't know what Colin's is about, but I'm sure it's wonderful. I'm sure you guys will all want to see it. Colin is just the best. He's just the nicest person on the planet. Jordan's I did watch, and it's really funny and cute because Anat's filming it, and you'll like her. She's like crying in the background because it's so sweet. Jordan's opening mail from our old PO box that he hasn't, due to coronavirus, he hasn't been able to get back to that PO box because it's, you know, it's not close to his current apartment, and at the time he couldn't take, you know, the subway or an Uber or anything like that. So it was like a treasure trove. And in particular, he opens up one giant care package from a member. It was so sweet. And it contained things to help him, you know, get over or be, you know, get better after having contracted COVID. So definitely watch that. It is so sweet, such a good video, and you can join right here, statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month, and you get some amazing content too, some bonuses like these member videos, these diaries. Let me put that link in the chat. Cirrus 1976. Oh, I already read that one. Let's see. Super chats. Herb Bryant, $4.99 in the super chat, watching from Tampa, Florida, USA. Awesome, so glad you're watching. And it must be, you know, I'm in Maryland right now and it's super hot. So I can't even imagine what it feels like down in Tampa. And let's see here. Paul, our wonderful mod, has mentioned that Status Quo is authentic field journalism with a Sunday marathon of recent news, uncensored, unedited. Absolutely. Smash the like button. Okay, so we have 230 likes, 279 watching. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Chris Garrett says, sounds like the fix is now in progress. Yeah, I mean, that's what all signs point to, for sure. And Anthony asks, how did these girls get recruited in the first place? So there are a few ways that we know of. In Virginia Roberts Giuffre's case, she was working at Trump's Mar-a-Lago, and she was sitting and reading a book on, you know, how to become a masseuse. And from what Virginia says, Ghislaine approached her and said, oh, would you like to learn on the job? You know, you can go to massage school and you can work at the same time and earn money. And so Virginia, who needed money and who really wanted to become a masseuse, saw this as a great opportunity. And we know from her testimony that, you know, she showed up, Epstein was naked. She assumed like this was part of the training, learning anatomy or something. She was uncomfortable. She was asked to undress herself. And she was asked to do, you know, give Epstein oral sex, according to her testimony. Really disgusting things. She was also asked to recruit other girls. So that's the other way that we know. These girls that were there and others like Ghislaine and Sarah Kellen allegedly procured girls from, you know, the girls who were already in it would find other girls to come massage Jeffrey. There is one case I know of where the girl said that she wasn't comfortable. Like, she said, no, I don't want you to touch me, to Epstein. She gave him a naked massage, but she said, no, please don't touch me, when he tried more than a few times, apparently. And he said, okay, I understand you aren't comfortable. Can you find me other girls? And, you know, I'll pay you a fee. So I believe that girl did end up finding other girls, and it was kind of this web of girls finding other girls who might be down on their luck, might need money, and Ghislaine and Sarah Kellen and these other people in the Epstein orbit. They were usually girls down on their luck, from bad families, needed money, you know, girls easy to prey on. So, and also people who might be impressed by his lavish lifestyle and feel like they were part of something. You know, if you're getting to fly on Jeffrey Epstein's jet as a 16-year-old and fly to, you know, a beautiful island that this man owns, you know, that can be really impressive, especially, frankly, to young girls whose brains aren't fully developed and who are looking for connection because maybe they haven't found it in their family. So, Anthony, that's some of the ways that we know of. All right, guys, keep smashing that like button. Let's get back to the news. Get rid of this one. This is just, okay, so the Miami Herald, this is from Law and Crime. The Miami Herald. Ghislaine Maxwell bashes the Miami Herald as appeals court delays upcoming document dump. Ghislaine Maxwell, who faces federal criminal charges of enticement of a minor to engage in illegal sex acts, transportation of a minor to engage in illegal sex acts, conspiracy, and perjury, is accusing the Miami Herald of trashing her reputation and, in essence, of attempting to destroy her right to receive a fair trial. The Herald and its investigative reporter, Julie K. Brown, have been widely praised and awarded for their aggressive coverage of the now dead and infamous pedophile sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and concomitantly, I've never heard that word, of Maxwell, his longtime associate. As I said before, Julie K. Brown is just a fantastic reporter. She has been so on this case, writing incredible pieces, doing incredible investigation. So by reporting facts and giving updates and talking about what's known, apparently Ghislaine thinks that she can just bash the news, can bash these investigations. Again, award-winning, highly praised investigations and reporting. So this is what the Ghislaine Maxwell camp does, is they bully anyone who tries to report the truth or report the allegations. They try to come after people, and now the Miami Herald. They want to stop the truth from getting out at any cost. Maxwell levied the complaints against the Herald in a lawsuit to determine whether a second cache of documents in a defamation case between Maxwell and her accuser, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, it's supposed to be Virginia Roberts Giuffre, so they messed up there, will be unsealed by Monday. So we already know about that they're trying to stop these documents from getting out. The Maxwell argument further trashes the Herald's assertion that the documents have been improperly sealed for years by blaming, you guessed it, the Herald. The Herald entirely ignores its own conduct, Maxwell's attorneys argue. The Herald did not move to unseal anything in this case until 2018, 1 year after the case was closed. Said another way, Maxwell's attorneys are blaming the Herald for not acting fast enough to unseal documents, which Maxwell's attorneys say should not be unsealed. So think about that for a second. Like, not only is it's super Trumpian to go after the media in this way because they're reporting on negative, horrible things that you've done or have alleged to have done, but they're also saying, like, oh, it's your fault because you waited until 2018 to try to get these documents. It's your fault, Miami Herald. It's your fault, Julie K. Brown. On the other hand, they don't want the documents released at all. They want to do everything they can to not give these documents up. So it's a total contradiction in their argument. They're all over the place. They're total bullies. It's horrifying and horrible. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, I think, that Michael Cernovich, famous from Gamergate, famous for being on the alt-right, it's the thing where you don't want to give kudos to someone who's done or said or, who's on the wrong side. Like, you don't want to say, bravo, Mike Cernovich, you've helped to uncover these documents. You've gone after Epstein and Ghislaine. I mean, it is good that he helped, and his name will forever be associated with helping to get this information out there. But he's also just not, I don't know. He's Cernovich. If you follow his tweets or social media or his blog at all, he's an interesting guy with some bad opinions and associations, to put it extremely mildly. So self-styled journalist Michael Cernovich, one second, he is also sometimes referred to in other ways. I actually didn't open that to see what they're talking about. Oh, they just linked to the Wikipedia. So yeah, check out Cernovich's Wikipedia. Rubbished Maxwell's argument that the Herald was late to enter the proceeding by telling the second court that he had long been after the same documents himself. While the court should not give any credence to Ms. Maxwell's argument in her motion that the First Amendment interests at issue are not harmed because the Herald did not seek to intervene until after the May 2017 settlement, Mr. Cernovich had been seeking to learn what atrocities by Maxwell and Epstein were wrongly concealed in the docket prior to that settlement. 3.5 years is too long to suppress the First Amendment right of access. No stay is warranted. And I completely agree with that. You know, it's been long enough. These documents have been sealed for long enough. There is no reason for them to not be released now. As Chris Garrett said, you know, the fix is in. There are extremely powerful people who are very, very well connected who don't want these additional documents to get out at all. They want it to go away because a lot of very powerful politicians, wealthy people, well-connected people are very likely implicated in this scandal. Scandal's not even the right word. Like in this disgusting, horrific, you know, web of the sexual abuse and rape of young girls. If the documents are not kept under wraps, Maxwell says her Fifth and Sixth Amendment rights against self-incrimination and in favor of a fair trial with an impartial jury will be irreparably harmed. Such fears by Maxwell could arguably and easily be seized upon by her critics to imply that Maxwell said something in the still sealed documents which could come back to haunt her. If she said something or admitted something that could be incriminating, that's in the public interest to know. We need to know the truth. It's, you know, again, I'll say it over and over. Ghislaine, if you are not guilty, then what are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of your own words getting out there? Nothing to be afraid of if you're innocent, right? That inference obviously was not fully developed by Maxwell's attorneys. Instead, attention was turning again to the Herald, which is among the independent parties seeking to pry the documents into the light of day. Maxwell's attorneys said the Herald's proffered notion that the public interest would be best served by the release of the documents was actually quite backwards. The Herald trivializes the public's right to see that its justice system provide fair trials, the Maxwell argument concludes. With Ms. Maxwell facing an imminent and very public trial, the justice system should endeavor to do all it can to vindicate the theory of our trial system is that the conclusions to be reached in a case will be induced only by the evidence and argument in open court, and not by any outside influence, whether of private talk or public print. Read several of the relevant court papers below, including an earlier argument by the Herald in favor of releasing the cache of Maxwell Epstein documents. So you can check this out, check these specific documents out. Let me put them in the chat. Let me see if I missed any important comments. Whoops. One second, guys. Okay, so, you know, there's not much more to say on this. Ghislaine's team is just full of bullies who will take anyone down who's trying to pull the truth out. And there, of course, are people on the left and the right who want the truth out. You know, universally abusing sexually, especially sexually abusing minors, is just really abhorrent. People are not willing to stand for it. People want to know the truth, and they want justice brought to the victims. It's said of people in jail, you know, people who've murdered and people who've done all kinds of horrible things, that they tend to go after the pedophiles or the sexual abusers of young people, because even they think it's horrific and horrifying. Let's see. Keep super chats coming. They help us keep reporting. Share this stream on all your social media. And one last Ghislaine related thing. Close that. I'm actually not going to read this one. but it's about Ghislaine Maxwell's cruel campaign to undermine Jeffrey Epstein's victim. So the gist of this is that in addition to now bullying the Miami Herald, Maxwell has had a consistent campaign bullying Giuffre, Virginia. So this is pretty interesting, but I'm gonna skip it for right now because otherwise we will be live streaming for the next 100 years. So I'm gonna paste this in here. Adrian R says, I'm too poor to super chat. No worries at all. If you can't afford to super chat, it's no worries, no worries. The most important thing is that you are here as a viewer, and we really appreciate you all. But if you can super chat, then we appreciate that. If you can join, then we appreciate that. Herb Bryant says, that means status quo, no trial by media, correct? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between trial by media and reporting. Like, reporting is okay. You know, the Miami Herald is not doing anything wrong by doing their Jeffrey Epstein series, and Julie K. Brown is not doing anything wrong by continuing to investigate and report. So I think we can't conflate the differences there. I think it's important to, the media serves a purpose. It's the fourth estate. And too often these days, the media does not do its job. So when you have the Miami Herald going after this case in the form of journalism, that is okay. Super chats are super helpful. Yes, thank you. Oh, Anat and Jordan are in the chat. Hi, guys. Okay, let's go to Mr. Alan Dershowitz, who I've reported on in the last couple of days. He's a ridiculous person. He's a terrible person. He's done horrible things for horrible people. So I deeply, first of all, I want to apologize for having a Fox News article up on my screen to talk about Alan Dershowitz. Fox News, of course, is not like a place where you should go for accurate news, but Alan Dershowitz did an interview with good old Tucker. So I'm sorry, I have to show Fox News right now. Alan Dershowitz joins Tucker Carlson to respond to accusations in unsealed Ghislaine Maxwell documents. And this is a transcript. We won't go through the entire thing from Tucker Carlson tonight from January 31st, 2020. So Tucker, you know, kind of sets the scene in the first part. It takes a little bit for good old Dershowitz to come on. And this part is so ridiculous. So Tucker Carlson starts off his, you know, introduction of Alan Dershowitz in this interview by trying to hawk Alan Dershowitz's book. Like, if you're going to have someone who's been accused of having sex with minors and being a vile person, why are you plugging his book? Like, I'm not gonna have an alleged child rapist on and plug their book. No. Tucker, there's so much to say about Tucker. So Tucker says, well, as we told you, Professor Alan Dershowitz was named repeatedly in the documents released Thursday night. He has been accused by at least one person having sex with an underage minor on several occasions. He strongly, vehemently denies these charges. Dershowitz helped broker the deal, the immunity deal, between Epstein and the federal government. Epstein's accusers claim that Dershowitz crafted the deal to give himself immunity. Again, we're merely reporting the claims of others. So this is something that, you know, when you talk about Jeffrey Epstein, a lot of people have really only become aware of him in the last couple of years. People only kind of started paying attention when he was arrested. And then there was this flood of interest in Epstein. But what people don't realize is more than a decade ago, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and convicted. Now, he was only, in quotes, he was only convicted of, dealing with a prostitute. He wasn't convicted of all the other stuff he's alleged to have done, and the abuse and sexual assault of young girls. And part of the reason why that's the case is because Alan Dershowitz went to bat for him. And Tucker actually asked him about that and why there was this kind of silence surrounding Dershowitz and others. And there were these weird things going on in this case in Florida where Epstein was very much protected. He got an extremely light sentence, nowhere near what it should have been. He only got charged on the one, or, convicted of the one thing. And it all around, this plea deal was baffling. And that's probably part of the reason why it didn't really make waves. And even people who now denounce Epstein were more than willing, more than happy to be seen with Epstein through those years. These people, these powerful people, politicians, celebrities, were willing to be seen with Epstein, even though these accusations were out there. Alan Dershowitz was willing to go to bat for Epstein. Alan Dershowitz was willing to have, he and his daughter stay in Epstein's New York townhouse, which, by the way, was given to him, just given, by Les Wexner, the head of Victoria's Secret. And that's real shady. We don't know where Epstein's money came from. We don't really understand a lot about Les Wexner and Epstein's relationship, or why he was gifted an entire, I think it's 50,000. It's a really absurd number of square feet. 50,000 is sticking out of my mind. That might not be true, but it's huge. So let's go back to Dershowitz now that we kind of set the scene here. So then Tucker does his ridiculous, advertisement of Dershowitz's book. Alan Dershowitz has been on the show many times. As you know, he wrote the book Guilt by Association, and we're happy to have him on tonight. Professor, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Alan Dershowitz says, well, thanks. The book is Guilt by Accusation. Carlson, Guilt by Accusation. Right. And Dershowitz, continuing the commercial, right in the middle of discussing these important allegations, says, right, and it's available from Kindle. What? Why? Why is he allowed to hawk his book? Look, I agree with you, Tucker. I think there ought to be a very extensive investigation. I brought this case to the FBI. I went to the U.S. Attorney's Office. I went to the District Attorney. I wrote an op-ed piece for the Wall Street Journal saying, FBI, please investigate me. I have been asking for an investigation from day one. I wanted all of this material unsealed. It's Giuffre, my accuser, who tried to get everything redacted, everything unsealed. She deep-sixed tapes, and she deep-sixed emails. She deep-sixed a manuscript, all of which prove she never met me, in her own words. The emails she say between her and a friend, why don't you name Dershowitz in your book? He is famous. We know there's no proof he did anything wrong, but name him in your book. Then she names me in my book as somebody in her book, as somebody she did not have sex. Okay. First of all, I don't know people who write emails like that who say specifically, why don't you write about Dershowitz in your book? He is famous. We know there's no proof. Nobody would form an email like that. It doesn't make any sense. So Alan Dershowitz is just allowed to go around making accusations against Giuffre and proclaiming his innocence on Fox News and Twitter without any repercussions. He can just say whatever he wants because the documents aren't fully unsealed. And he's pointing to things he says have been deep-sixed. So it's really a trap. Alan Dershowitz, as scummy as he is a really smart person. He knows his way around the legal system, part of why he was able to help Jeffrey get that deal. So he knows that in order to protect himself, he can put out these false things. You know, I have no idea if Virginia Roberts Giuffre deep sixed documents and emails and a manuscript. I have no idea. But there's nothing stopping Alan Dershowitz from just making it up. He can say it. He can't like prove that this happened. You can't prove that this didn't happen. It's trying to prove, you know, a negative, because they're not there anymore, no matter what. Like, if they ever existed, they're not there. If they did exist but were deep sixed, they're not there. So Dershowitz is a really smart person, a really bad person. He's another one who's willing to do everything and anything to go after Virginia Roberts Giuffre. She said she had sex with George Mitchell. She said she had sex with some of the other people, but she explicitly said she saw me once talking to Epstein and did not have sex with me. And then he goes into her own lawyers admit that she made up stories about prominent people. Her own lawyer, David Boyes, is on tape saying she is wrong, simply wrong to accuse me, that it was impossible that I could have been in the places she saw me. So the evidence that she is lying about me is overwhelming. Tucker says, let me ask you about those places. So in 2003, Vanity Fair, the magazine, prepared a piece about Jeffrey Epstein having sex with underage girls. They were later bullied into not running those accusations. So this is important, because this means the fact that Vanity Fair was about to do a story but ended up not. This means that the information was there. People knew. If Vanity Fair knows, then you can bet that the people in Jeffrey Epstein's inner circle knew. Alan Dershowitz was very much in Jeffrey Epstein's circle. He denies being close friends, but they were clearly friends. So you have to think about the fact that people knew and didn't do anything. They still went on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. They still went to his parties. They still rubbed elbows with him. This could have been, you know, young girls could have been saved if this information had been known to the wider public, if any of these powerful people had come forward. And silence is unacceptable, but a heck of a lot of people were silent surrounding what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. But the point, and this is Tucker continuing, but the point is, a glossy magazine in New York had heard them. They were known. They were out there. You were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. You went to his home in New York, his home in Palm Beach. You went to his island, so-called Pedo Island. You flew in his plane many times. How did you not know? And Dershowitz replies, of course I didn't know. I first met him through the Lady Rothschild, a very prominent woman. Of course Dershowitz is connected to the Rothschilds family. She told me he was very, very charitable to Harvard. And of course, Dershowitz being a former Harvard professor. I went to the island with my wife and my daughter when it was not yet called. He just bought it. I was at his home mostly when I was his lawyer. I was not a close personal friend. He lived his private life very privately. President of Harvard, the provost of Harvard, Nobel Prize winners all had the same kind of academic relationship with Epstein that I did. As soon as I found out that he was accused, my relationship with him totally changed. It was mostly attorney-client relationship, and I had charged him for pay. And Tucker says, right, but when you were on Pedo Island or at his place, when you borrowed his place in Palm Beach or a house in New York, Dershowitz says, with my grandchildren, Carlson says, okay, but every picture I've ever seen of his properties, you see young women around. Were there no young women when you were on his plane or in any of these properties? None? And Dershowitz says, absolutely not. I never saw him in the presence of a young woman. I think this is a case of someone someone protesting too much. He's never seen Epstein with a young girl. Tucker's right. In every picture that we see of Epstein, he's surrounded by young girls. It's clear. It's ridiculous to be someone who's close to Epstein, even as just his lawyer, as Dershowitz is trying to claim, and say that you had no idea. Yes, you know that Epstein is around young girls. Even if you have to think that's weird. Even if you supposedly have no idea that he's been abusing young girls and raping young girls, you at least know that it's, here's this old dude hanging around teenagers. That's kind of weird, right? You have to know these people knew. And the fact that they're allowed to get away with they're complicit and they're allowed to get away with it. I will never understand the human race. I will never understand how, there are so many good people in this world, like you guys, the viewers of Status Coup, people working so hard for progressive change. But then on the other hand, there are so many people who are truly only in it for themselves, who don't care about other people, who don't even care about young girls, children, or who are willing to try to clear the path for Jeffrey Epstein, to try to let him keep doing what he's doing. The powerful can get away with whatever they want. So Dershowitz goes on to say he was there with her children, his children and grandchildren, and nobody else was there when he stayed at the townhouse. The only time I was with him was in academic situations, when I was representing him as a lawyer. Yes, he lent me his house because my granddaughter was in a soccer tournament. But it was empty. And he keeps protesting. If I knew anything had gone on in that house improper, you think I would have brought my grandchildren, my children in that house? Well, yeah, maybe that one time. You were clearly close friends if he was lending you his really pricey townhouse. You were clearly friendly. So maybe in that one instance, maybe it was only the housekeeper there. That doesn't, Alan Dershowitz, he focuses in on the parts that make him look good, or at least look okay, and takes, he shifts the entire conversation away from anything incriminating. He is a very intelligent guy, and Tucker really lets him get away with it. Like, Tucker will start out by asking him certain questions that make it seem like he's trying to dig in and get the truth from Dershowitz, but he pulls away, or he changes topic, or he lets Dershowitz answer, and then he just moves on to the next question. So Tucker didn't do a good job here. Tucker, I think, he's hailed as, he's had the best cable ratings for any, he's setting records for cable news. Tucker is very widely loved on the right. He almost has this hypnotizing effect on people, and even some people from the left will sometimes point to that rumor that that Tucker talked Trump down so that he wouldn't bomb. I can't remember if it was Syria or what, but people point to that and say, see, Tucker is anti-war, and being anti-war is a place where a lot of the people in the alt-right and progressives kind of meet, because young people have grown up around war and that's all they've ever known. That's my theory anyway, that they want across the board no war. They're very anti-war. So Tucker sometimes comes through with observations or opinions that make him look good and that appeal to people, which further props him up, because he truly gets the vibe of the country now. He's not out of touch like so many commentators are. So Tucker has this way of making you think that he might be okay, but don't fall for his tricks. He's not truly trying to get to the truth, that's for sure. So Tucker says, well, you continued, no, look, I'm not accusing you of anything. I am asking the obvious questions. Vanity Fair knew, but you didn't know? Let me ask you, though, in the plea, you went on to represent him to get off the hook. Right. You are accused of writing an agreement that exempted yourself. We do know that the agreement exemplary... Well, let me be very clear. Tucker says, let me finish. Dershowitz says, okay, right. The agreement exempted, and I'm quoting, potential co-conspirators. Potential co-conspirators. Tucker goes on to say, you're saying that didn't apply to you. Why would the federal government agree to something like that? I'm honestly confused. And of course, Dershowitz switches the conversation and says, well, let me be clear. I hereby waive any possible immunity. I would never accept immunity. I didn't do anything wrong. Why would I accept immunity? And Carlson says, it probably was supposed to say, I don't think you can unilaterally do that. And Dershowitz, says he had nothing to do with that. And let's see here. And then Carlson ends it with his not good interview. And he ends it by saying, you've definitely impugned her motives and character, and we will just let the viewers decide. And I think you made a really strong case. He does continue saying, I want to get to your defense of Jeffrey Epstein. You did get him off the hook, and you did so with a lot of other prominent people. Were you concerned? I mean, so the accusations were clearly true. You knew at that time. Do you have moral qualms about it? Dershowitz said, we knew he was pleading guilty. Carlson said, and why do you think the feds went along with this? It just doesn't make sense. And Dershowitz says, well, ask the feds. And Tucker asks him what he thinks. And then he gives a non-answer. Dershowitz says, it's exactly why I think they went along with it. What does that mean? And then Tucker just says, yes. Ridiculous. So he was saying they had a strong federal defense and on. And he says, it's his job to defend the client. And he says he's proud of what he's done as a lawyer. Let's see here. I don't want to read this entire thing because it is so long. But Tucker does go on to say, if he's if Epstein let Dershowitz stay in his house, the people would know him fairly well. So Dershowitz deflects that. Let's see. Anything else important? He just goes on to impugn Virginia Roberts Giuffre more. Oh, and then Tucker brings up Bill Clinton and says he admitted, said he wasn't on the plane, Bill Clinton. And Dershowitz says, no, he admitted it. And Carlson says, well, he has now. Bill Clinton has consistently lied about this, which is horrible. I reported a much longer story the other day about Bill Clinton's role in here. So you get the picture. I'll put this in the chat for you so you can read more. Make sure I haven't missed any super chats here. Woo! Smash that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Wow, so many nice comments in the chat. Scrolling. Chris Garrett, $5 in the super chat. He says, Jen, thanks for covering this uncomfortable story. Remember, not guilty is not the same as innocent. They are all dirty and disgusting. This goes deep. Absolutely a good reminder, Chris, as always. Kimberly asks, is there any truth to the island adjacent to Epstein Island being owned by Joe Biden? I have actually never heard that, so I don't know. Send me an email if you guys have seen any reporting on that. Yeah, I haven't heard that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but I definitely haven't heard that. Oh, Anthony Martino's in the chat. Said hi to Sarah from everyone. She's blinking back and feels the love. Thank you all again. I'm feeding her and listening. If you guys haven't seen Jordan's incredible interview with Anthony, and him caring for his terminally ill wife, Sarah. Please, please watch it. It's heartbreaking and it's inspiring. Anthony is just an incredible person. Sarah's an incredible person, so definitely check that out. And Herb says, can you show us a photo of Epstein with young girls? That would be a refutation. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna stop the live stream to look it up now, but you can just type it in and hit images on Google. It's very much the case. Yes, and Turbo Kitty says Ghislaine Maxwell has Polaroids of everything. Quite the shutterbug. They just have to find them. Yeah, reportedly there are a ton of photographs either taken by Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. Supposedly they have this to kind of blackmail people. They would take pictures of powerful people and hold it over their heads as blackmail. So there are supposedly a ton of pictures, videos, whatever, that show some incredibly incriminating things. I don't know if there was a time where Jeffrey Epstein tried to throw everything incriminating away or get rid of it in some capacity, and that's why the police found the phone message memos. They pulled them out of the trash, and that's the only reason we have those there. So again, if these people are innocent, they sure have a strange way of showing it. That's for sure. I want to, before I move on to the next story, which is about Joe Biden and Trump, I want to show you something. Hold on, folks. Look at this. We have in the Status Coup news store, which is up on Teespring. Teespring is great. We have Status Coup face masks now. So, obviously these are not N95 masks. They are cloth cotton masks, and they're cool. They're great. So we have the Status Coup logo here. They're very nicely constructed. You can choose all kinds of different colors. I actually don't know how to choose the different colors. Here we go. Look, you have gray Status Coup mask, pink Status Coup mask, or I think they call that coral. And people who are frequent watchers will remember that Jordan has a pair of coral shorts. So maybe we should order that one for Jordan too, so he matches. We have green Status Coup face masks, white, blue, red, purple. Most people, of course, are ordering the black. It looks very cool. So let me link you to this. People have been buying these like crazy. People love these face masks. I actually ordered one for Jordan and one for me too, so that we can kind of show them off, model them for you. But definitely grab yours now. Teespring takes a bit to ship, so the sooner the better. They're a great price, and they help support Status Coup. So you will help support our reporting. You can get the color you want. You can have fun with it. Buy them for your whole family. Buy them for your friends. I don't know if they'd fit a dog, but you never know. And just grab them. They're great. They're a good look for a good reason. Everybody wear a mask out there. Curious One says Jordan shorts are pink or salmon shorts. People, you guys are so funny. Like no matter what Jordan's like what shorts he's wearing out in the field, like whenever I'm doing the comments or something, you guys always have something to say about shorts, no matter which pair he's wearing. It's so funny. All right, let me get back to reporting here. It's actually hard for me to not be able to just sit and read the chat, because there are so many interesting comments. But let's move on to talking about Trump and Joe Biden. So this is out of Politico. Hating Joe Biden doesn't juice up their base. Key swing state slips away from Trump. Trump has trailed in every public poll in Pennsylvania since June. So to kind of set this up, Donald Trump surprisingly won Pennsylvania in 2016. It was a shock. I went to one of Trump's rallies just to kind of observe. I wanted to I had this desire to try to understand these people who were showing up to rallies and who were so supportive of Trump. It seemed back then kind of cult-like, and I would say it seems even more cult-like today. But I wanted to be, amongst these people and just observe. I took a ton of pictures that day. I talked to people. I helped, take a picture of a Trump supporter with Kellyanne Conway, and I felt ridiculous doing it. But this woman was so sweet, just incredibly sweet. She was head to toe dressed up in Trump gear, and just like almost in tears because I had taken her picture with Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne was actually perfectly nice. Obviously, we know that she's Kellyanne. But yeah, I don't know. And maybe I have a deep, dark secret about that Trump rally. So maybe for members, I will show you something from that rally that I hope never gets out to the actual world. Just status quo members only. Anyway, join statusquo.com/join, and maybe I'll post that picture. At the very least, Jordan has a new members video. Colin has a new members video up. These are video diaries, behind the scenes stuff. As I said earlier, Anat filmed a really great, sweet behind the scenes video with Jordan the other day. And Colin gave us the surprise news that he filmed one too, and I'll try to film one as well. So, okay, back to the story. Keep the super chats coming so we can keep reporting. Everything helps. Becoming a member helps, and you get tons of cool stuff. So this is talking about Trump kind of falling in Pennsylvania. So Trump has trailed in every public poll in Pennsylvania since June. Not good news for Trump, but I do have to remind people that it looked like Hillary was going to win. Hillary was very much up in polls in 2016. That goes without saying. It was a complete shock and surprise that Hillary didn't win the entire election. Of course, she got the popular vote, and people jokingly call her our popular vote president, but she didn't win because of our electoral college. She didn't win because she didn't focus enough on these important swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin. She didn't even go to Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. It was a surprise that she didn't win. And of course, we all knew the turning point when we saw the Florida results. So, even though he's down in the polls right now, anything could happen. And it seems, as I'll show you, that there's a little bit of a pivot starting to happen. So I'll show you that after this article. So senior citizens and suburban voters are sinking President Donald Trump's campaign across the country. But here in Pennsylvania, home to one of the largest populations of residents aged 65 or older, and where suburbanites comprise more than half the electorate, their defection to Joe Biden is hurting Trump even more acutely. It's a very big problem in a swing state that's central to his Rust Belt path to victory. 4 years ago, Trump became the first Republican presidential candidate since 1988 to carry Pennsylvania, in part by winning older and suburban voters, as well as blue-collar white workers in ancestrally Democratic areas. Now, with less than 100 days till Election Day, surveys show those voters are eyeing something different yet again. Joe Biden has an overall early lead in the state of 6 percentage points, according to Real Clear Politics polling average, and has led Trump in all 12 public polls released since the beginning of June. So I want to say that even though people are praising Joe Biden and kind of feeling comfort that Joe Biden is up, 6 points is not huge. Often in these polls, the margin of error is 5 or 4. So we already know that the polling was ridiculously off in 2016. And I do subscribe to the theory that there are a lot of underground Trump voters, the so-called silent majority. I don't know if it's a majority because he did lose the popular vote, but I think there are people, especially this year, who just won't come out and say that they're a Trump supporter, because there is a lot of rightful, in my opinion, backlash against Trump supporters. So it'll be interesting. I don't understand the people who really get their hopes up about the fact that Joe Biden is ahead in so many polls and in so many states, because this happened in 2016 too. And we all thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. So in my opinion, it's better to underplay the fact that Trump is down, seemingly, to kind of motivate people. If people think it's safe to not vote, and I'm not telling anyone to vote for Joe Biden, I'm talking about for the people who would otherwise vote for Joe Biden, they might think it's safe and stay home on election day, or if we do the mail-in, they might not mail it in. They might not feel, it's hard enough to get Americans to vote. America has such a terrible, terrible rate of voting. It's just awful. People don't care enough about their best interests, for one thing. They don't care about the fact that their vote does matter. So we have a lot of things in play here, and I do think it's best to underplay it, but a lot of news outlets are, in my opinion, overplaying Biden's lead. So Joe Biden, his party is not in power. So just by definition, he's the candidate of change. That's a huge advantage, said Democratic Senator Bob Casey. I have to laugh at that. Joe Biden is not the candidate of change. That's ridiculous. You couldn't get a more non-changing candidate than Joe Biden. He is not seeking to change anything in any major way, in any way that matters. So the fact that senators and politicians like Bob Casey can say that, no, either you don't have your pulse on, or finger on the pulse of this country, or you're lying, or you're very dumb. It's ridiculous, these people. So just by definition, he's the candidate of change. That's a huge advantage, said Democratic Senator Bob Casey. Now, I will say on that point that could be true, because people do tend to want to go back and forth between the two parties. It's just historically true. So maybe it does give him that advantage, but he's not a candidate of change. And Casey goes on to say, no matter what Hillary Clinton did with her campaign schedule, she was running after 8 years of a Democratic president. So when you're running after 8 years of your party, you are not the change candidate. So he's simply and dumbly, in my opinion, talking about change as being about being in the opposite party of the president who's in power. I think he's giving way too much weight to it. And he said, regardless of Hillary's campaign schedule, no, dude, she won the popular vote. Hillary Clinton, as much as I despise her and think she's a horrible person, she did win the popular vote. So the fact that she lost is due to the Electoral College. Her loss came down to those swing states that I mentioned before. It did matter. Her campaign schedule did matter. It matters that she didn't even try in Wisconsin. She had terrible advice. She was way too hubristic, and it did matter. It's just these people. I can't. So then they talk about Trump's mishandling of COVID, which I definitely think is a huge, huge issue for Trump. People are terrified of COVID. People's entire lives have changed due to COVID. Trump has mishandled COVID from day one. He didn't take it seriously enough in the beginning. He only now, here we are all these months later, he's only now starting to wear a mask and to tell the public to wear a mask. That's ridiculous. And especially, as the article says, especially ridiculous for those seniors whose lives are statistically more at risk. They're seeing Trump for his true colors. So you have those people who are seeing the light. There are people who voted for Trump in 2016 who will not vote for him this time, and that I think is a good thing. I still I'm not sure what I'm personally doing. I live in a very blue state, so I don't live in a swing state. So I don't know what I'm doing yet, but there are a lot of people who've changed their vote. And no, I definitely didn't vote for Trump. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but we do know things are shifting that way. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, the Trump supporting base is often more like a cult. We have, of course, QAnon, which is really starting to take off in incredible ways. At first it was this, fringe group who believed that Q was working in concert with the Trump camp to reveal certain truths, and that, when I went to I reported from the DC 4th of July last year, there were Q supporters there, and those Q supporters believed that JFK Jr., who of course is dead, was going to be present that day and reveal some important information that the public needed to know, and that was going to be it. Of course, that didn't happen because he's dead. And these people just refused to believe that. And so you have those people who are, of course, on the extreme, but they're diehard Trump supporters. They believe he's here to save us all. They believe he's anti-establishment. They believe all sorts of wacky stuff. Then you have just Trump supporters who are like the guy who we pulled over in I think Pennsylvania when we were on the road trip last month, and this Trump supporter, he seemed like a decent guy. He was the one who said that having to wear a mask is like Jews having to wear a yellow star, which is, my eyes went way wide at that. I don't know how Jordan kept his composure and continued the interview, but he did. So we have people like this who are mostly seem like reasonable, nice people, but that line, I've since learned, that was the first time I'd heard the master Jews wearing a yellow star. That was the first time I had heard that, but I've since learned that other media has gotten interviews like that and it has heard that. This line, this disgusting, horrible line, is coming from the Trump supporting world. These people say it with a straight face. So we have on that interview with that Trump supporter from Pennsylvania, we have some people saying like, oh, he seems like a nice guy. He seems reasonable. He's not like on the fringe. But that's the danger. You have these people who frequently live in rural areas, who are white, who live in swing states, who will come out and say horrific things, but who mostly seem reasonable. So you have those Trump supporters as well. And I think that's the danger. And then you have other people who won't even say that they're a Trump supporter, who are living in secret. So there's a lot going into this, a lot that I think pollsters don't think about or look into. So of course the Trump people are arguing that, Biden is buoyed by the fact that he's a Scranton native, and he was covered in Philadelphia media for years, like he's well known in Pennsylvania. And of course Trump has a nickname for Sleepy Joe, or for Joe, Sleepy Joe. Yeah, so the next part that I want to cover in this is what John Fetterman said. So he's Pennsylvania's Democratic Lieutenant Governor, and I actually met John Fetterman years and years ago. Well, I guess that would have been in 2015 or so, at a Bernie rally, or maybe 2016. And it was in Pennsylvania, probably Philly. And John Fetterman was like campaigning to the line, and I looked at his policies and they seemed great. He seemed like a great candidate. From what I remember, he's a very big guy, like just very tall and a big guy. Seemed super, super nice. So he's right when he says that it's political malpractice to count Trump out, or that at least is what he was hinting at. He said, I don't know how what happened in 2016 wouldn't have cured any Pennsylvania Democrat of their swagger. At the end of the day, it's not unlike the confidence that set in with Clinton. And that was exactly my point from earlier. The Clinton campaign and Clinton supporters were so hubristic, thinking she had this in the bag, when in fact she didn't. She didn't. And it was, you know, I saw, as much as I despise Hillary, I sobbed and sobbed that night. I know I'm not alone. It was just so unexpected, and Trump, we knew, was going to be such a danger, and that's turned out to be very true. So we can't, you know, for those on the Democratic side who are going to vote for Joe Biden, you can't like be hubristic this time. You have to, you know, if that is your team, if Joe Biden is your team, you have to get out the vote. You can't just sit on the sidelines. This has to be worked for. This has to be earned. People are not just going to hand Joe Biden their votes. So it scares me that people in the media and pollsters and etc. are just saying like, oh, you know, Joe Biden is so ahead, everything's cool, everything's good. It's not. It's just not the case. So it goes more into the polling. Let's see here. So this is where it kind of gets interesting. And so Casey says, I think the big challenge for our party is continuing to just have an economic message, and I've been urging the vice president's team to do that. This is something that is so important. The economic message, you know, take several pages from Bernie's book. You have to pay attention to the people who are struggling right now. Joe Biden can't just get on Twitter and say, you know, oh, everybody should have access to health care, and like all these lines that mean nothing. He can't just tweet these things. He has to believe these things. He has to get people, you know, make some promises that are deeper. He has to grab hold of more of Bernie's policies. He needs to support Medicare for all if he really wants to lock in his win. He has to make sure and promise through policies that he's going to stop what is about to be a mass eviction scenario. It's horrible. I'll talk about that later. The fact that Dems and Republicans haven't come to any agreement on what's going to happen with, you know, unemployment checks or relief checks or anything like that. Joe Biden has to do better, much better than the like really ridiculous Democratic Party platform that just got passed. And Jordan's done some amazing reporting, talking to people from the Bernie camp, or who were in the Bernie camp officially, or were who on the, or let me walk that back, who were on the Dem Party platform committee, I believe. So check out those videos that he's done. They tell you basically the Dem Party platform was being sabotaged. And even people who had been in the Bernie camp, like Jeff Weaver, were sabotaging proposals from the Bernie camp, from the progressive wing. So there's a lot of shadiness going on there. Joe Biden, if he wants to win, he does have to do better. He has to truly care. He can't believe he just has this in the bag. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. I will put it in the chat for you guys. I think I saw a super chat zooming on by. Maybe not. Super chats help keep us going. Any amount helps for sure. Anthony asks, can Status Coup have Jesse Ventura do an interview? That would be great. Jordan has said he'd love to have Jesse Ventura on. He seems like a good guy. Voltaire says, dinosaur endorses Status Quo. I don't know what that means, but I like it. Oh, and Curious One says that clip of Jordan in Miami was great. Yeah, it is. That socialist video from the Miami Trump, or Miami, I don't remember what rally it was, but he interviewed Trump supporters, and the socialist one is doing so well, getting so many views. A super chat from Anthony Martino. Thank you so much, Anthony. $5 at the super chat. Jen, you're doing amazing work and job holding up the live stream. All love to you and the family. Thank you, Anthony. You are super sweet. And I know, Anthony, that I have DMs to return to you. I've been like away from my DMs a bit, but I will write you back for sure. So we're gonna, this is important. I have to show you this one more thing before we move on to a different story. One more thing. Oh, and I didn't put this in the live chat. There's that. So let me show you this. This might be what people have been predicting. So Donald Trump on August 1st tweeted, "I actually agree with this. Too much income disparity. Changes must be made, and soon." So he was, quote, tweeting the Business Insider, who said, while 40 million Americans filed for unemployment during the coronavirus pandemic, billionaires saw their net worth increase by $500 billion. So that's obviously news in and of itself. But what we're going to focus on is Trump tweeting, "I actually agree with this. Too much income disparity. Changes must be made, and soon." So one of my favorite accounts, I'll just point this out, Internet Hippo said, "Mr. President joined DSA." It's just funny. But this is something that Jordan has talked about for a long time, saying that if Trump wants to win, then he needs to use that same populist message that he used in 2016. Trump said a lot of things, like anti-NAFTA things, anti-TPP things. He said a lot of things that really resonated with the working class people of this country. And I think that's a large part of the reason he won, specifically or especially in those swing states. So this tweet might be the first sign that Trump is going to start pivoting that way. We obviously don't like to talk about Trump a lot in our streams or in our videos, but I think it's important, as the election comes closer and closer, for us to kind of follow Trump's strategy too, to follow the strategies of both the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign. So an interesting, perhaps, pivot there. Maybe he's going to start doing some things to reconnect with the working class people that he's left behind in practice. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Michael Brown. And of course, Michael Brown's murder gave rise to very important protests. And people fought and are still fighting for justice. Unfortunately, in Michael Brown's memory and to Michael Brown's family and friends, they're left with injustice yet again. So this is really sad and really just awful. I don't know how this decision was made at all. It doesn't make any sense. So, prosecutor, no charges for officer in Michael Brown's death. This is out of the AP. St. Louis County's prosecutor announced Thursday that he will not charge the former police officer who fatally shot Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, a dramatic decision that could reopen old wounds amid a renewed and intense national conversation about racial injustice and the police treatment of people of color. Prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell's decision marked the third time prosecutors investigated and opted not to charge Darren Wilson, the white officer who fatally shot Brown, a black 18-year-old, on August 9th, 2014. Let that sink in. This police officer shot this black young man, 18 years old, in 2014. Here we are in 2020, and justice has still not been served. And not only that, justice has been it's almost like they're mocking this with the fact that yet again no charges for the officer, Darren Wilson. It says right there, he killed Michael Brown. He didn't have to kill Michael Brown. He shouldn't have killed Michael Brown. It was racially charged. It was horrific. And at the very least, this country could recognize that. But over and over, here we are with the police murders of George Floyd, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, so many. Oh, Breonna Taylor, which we traveled to cover, and Jordan interviewed her Aunt Bianca. So many murders at the hands of police have happened since Michael Brown was murdered by a police officer. And of course, this has a very, very long history. Police are murdering black people constantly, and they're not getting in any sort of trouble for it at all. Maybe they'll lose their job or whatever, or be given a desk job. Yet again, no justice. Let's see here. A St. Louis County grand jury declined to indict Wilson in November 2014, and the U.S. Department of Justice also declined to charge him in March 2015. Civil rights leaders and Brown's parents had hoped that Bell, the county's first black prosecutor who took office in January 2019, would see things differently. "My heart breaks for Brown's parents," a somber Bell said during a news conference. "I know this is not the result they were looking for, and that their pain will continue forever." Describing the announcement as one of the most difficult things I've had to do, Bell said that his office conducted a 5-month, unannounced review of witness statements, forensic reports, and other evidence. The question for this office was a simple one. Could we provide beyond a reasonable doubt that when Darren Wilson shot Michael Brown, he committed murder or manslaughter under Missouri law? After an independent and in-depth review of the evidence, we cannot prove that he did, Bell said. But, he said, our investigation does not exonerate Darren Wilson. I think it's clear that this was wrong. It's clear that Darren Wilson operated in a criminal way as a police officer. It's also clear. And yet, this prosecutor continues to not give justice to Michael Brown's family. I don't understand. The evidence is clear. If this investigation was so thorough, then how could you ever arrive at this conclusion to not file any charges for Darren? Wilson's attorney, Jim Toey, said it was clear after 3 investigations that Wilson did nothing wrong. We all had the same conclusion. There was no crime, Toey said. I'm just hoping that everybody gets to have some closure, particularly the Brown family, he said. Yeah, like they're going to have closure after they've again been denied justice. 6 years later, no justice. And you, Toey, are a disgusting excuse for an attorney, a disgusting excuse for a human being, just undeniably vile. I understand fully that lawyers have a job. They have to represent even bad people. They have to represent even people who've done wrong. But to add insult to injury, to say, I hope the Brown family can get how did he put it? Can have some closure. You're just gross to me, Toey, whatever your name is. It's awful. Then the article gets into what they call unrest in Ferguson. And And the Ferguson Unrest helped solidify the national Black Lives Matter movement that began after Trayvon Martin, a black 17-year-old, was shot to death by a neighborhood watch volunteer in Florida. And they talk about George Floyd. So let's see. So okay, so here, this is a friend of Michael Brown's father. And he said, it's over. One term, Tori Russell, or that might be a woman, 36, of St. Louis, screamed at the prosecuting attorney. Police officers gently led him from the room. Okay, so it's in fact a man. Russell later told the Associated Press that he had just spoken with Michael Brown Sr. He is hurting, and he is not accepting of this. To give you a reminder of what happened, the shooting happened after Wilson told Brown and a friend to get out of the street as they walked down the middle of Canfield Drive. A scuffle between Wilson and Brown ensued, ending with the fatal shot. Wilson said Brown, who was not armed, came at him menacingly, forcing him to fire his gun in self-defense. Brown's body remained in the street for 4 hours. It doesn't, you know, that is just, to leave a body in the street for 4 hours, to appoint yourself as a police officer, as judge, jury, and executioner. That's not how it's supposed to work. But just because this was a black man, a young black man, no justice is served, even 6 years later. So my heart goes out to Michael Brown's family and friends, to all who support Black Lives Matter, which Status Coup of course does, to all black people who see this consistently and who know this and who fear this. There are no words that, you know, even touch on the depths of this, but people definitely have to keep fighting in light of these murders, you know, the latest being George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And Breonna Taylor, the officers who shot her and killed her have not been brought to justice either. This is a sad, sad country for so many reasons. Let me briefly look at the chat here before we get to another topic. Oh, some super chats. Very exciting. Vicky Blair, 10 bucks in the super chat. Thank you so much. And Vicky says, Jen, such a treat to get a live stream from you. Thank you and keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Vicky. It really means a lot. You guys are just incredible. Toonsy, 1999 in the super chat. Hi, Jen. Love your guys' work. Biden supporters are, in my opinion, more aggressive than Hillary's. They are now automatically resorting to personal attacks instead of staying objective. You cannot unbrainwash the brainwashed. I agree with that. It's very true that I don't know if they're more vicious than Hillary supporters, but they are in fact vicious and aggressive. Bernie supporters have been called, you know, Bernie bros, have been accused by, you know, even back in the primaries by even Warren's camp of being like awful people, aggressive people. Bernie supporters are some of the nicest people I've ever met, and people who actually care about progressive policy, who actually care about what happens to this country. So for it to go completely unnoticed how Hillary supporters and now Biden supporters treat actual progressives, it's horrifying. I don't know. Thank you for the super chat though. V says, why Jesse and not Howie? Because Jordan has reached out to Howie and the Green Party and we haven't heard anything. So we've tried more than once, I believe. So spread the word to Howie, I guess. We'd love to have him on. Let's see here. Anthony Martino says, I had fam send me money to spend on Status Coup for everything you all have done for us. Their directions, and they say thank you all. That is so sweet. Hello, and thank you to your family, Anthony. Garden Boots says, say it now, Black Lives Matter. Love these comments. Love these super chats. And Kim says Howie sucks. To be honest, I haven't looked as much into Howie, so I definitely need to do that for sure. But yeah, he hasn't gotten back to us. So a quick reminder, let me switch my screen. Quick reminder here, you can grab your Status Coup mask from our store, a very good price, and they give us about half of the money. So that money goes towards supporting our reporting, plus the masks are just great. They're not N95 masks or anything like that, and there's a disclaimer as you buy, but there's gray, salmon, green, white, blue, or light blue, red, purple, great colors. Most people choose black though. Okay. Here's some unfortunate news. Well, additional unfortunate news. Let me close this out. Let's talk some more about the coronavirus relief talks. I know, not a very fun topic because we all know where this is headed. Negotiators report progress in coronavirus relief talks. Out of the AP, lawmakers reported progress on a huge coronavirus relief bill Saturday, so that was yesterday, as political pressure mounts to restore an expired $600 per week supplemental unemployment benefit and send funding to help schools reopen. This was the longest meeting we've had, and it was more productive than the other meetings, said Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat, who was part of the rare weekend session. We are not close yet, but it was a productive discussion. Now each side knows where they're at. Okay, so the headline on this AP article is basically, I mean, it's saying that there's progress, so that gives people hope. So if they only see that headline, they will be thrilled because it seems hopeful. And then we hear from Chuck Schumer, it was more productive than other meetings, which isn't really like, it wasn't a far line to cross for it to be more productive than previous meetings. But he's also saying we're not close yet. Of course they're not, because they can't get their act together, neither side. And meanwhile, so many people are facing eviction. The $600 unemployment checks have run out. Eviction is on the horizon. Jordan showed you in a previous stream the horrible chart that shows you state by state how many people are likely to be evicted, and somewhere around 50%. Very scary. Very scary for this country and for so many individuals who are living this. Schumer spoke alongside House Speaker Nancy Pelosi after meeting for 3 hours with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. The Democratic leaders are eager for an expansive argument, as are President Donald Trump and top Republicans like Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, but perhaps one half of Senate Republicans, mostly conservatives, aka those who don't care how many people are suffering, and those not facing difficult races this fall, are likely to oppose any deals. That just goes to show you how disgusting politics is. Just because people aren't facing races, they vote against the people. Just, oof. Prior talks had yielded little progress, and Saturday's cautious optimism was a break from gloomy private assessments among GOP negotiators. The administration is willing to extend the newly expired $600 jobless benefit, which is what the people need, at least in the short term, but is balking at other Democratic demands like aid for state and local governments, food stamp increases, and assistance to renters and homeowners. Pelosi mentioned food aid and funding for voting by mail after the negotiating session was over. Let's see here. Mnuchin said restoring the $600 supplemental jobless benefit is critically important to Trump. And that may be, my friends, yet another way that Trump is trying to pivot and appeal to those in the working class. He is now in favor of the $600 jobless benefit that so many Republicans are opposing for reasons such as, oh, this will disincentivize people to find a job. That's just not true. And where are they going to find jobs anyway? Said we're still apart. The additional jobless benefit, of $600 officially lapsed on Friday, and Democrats have made clear that they will not extend it without securing other relief priorities. So that means Democrats are not willing to make a deal unless this is in it, and unless everything, that they deem to be essential is in it. Whatever unemployment aid negotiators agree on will be made retroactive, but antiquated state systems are likely to take weeks to restore the benefits. And that's the thing here. The lack of urgency from these people on both sides, they are not in touch with the people. Nancy Pelosi has an absurd amount of money. She's not in touch with the working class people. It's they don't care on either side. Maybe there are some individuals who do care, who do try to fight. AOC comes to mind, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. I think they care. Pramila Jayapal. But for the most part, these politicians just don't care. There's no urgency. They don't care that the benefit has run out already, that so many people are facing eviction, that so many people are now left with no money or very little money just based on the state unemployment. And so we have this fact that even if and when they go forward with an agreement with the Republicans for the $600 jobless benefit, even if that happens, it could take a very long time for people to actually see their unemployment checks. There's a story today in the Washington Post where a man is getting evicted and he kept, applying for the $600, kept applying for that unemployment, and he never got it. So now he's without food and a place to live. So now you think about with this new bill, how long it's going to take states to catch up. And it's just a huge disaster. They should have had something going, done, signed, out a long, long time ago. There's no excuse for it. And people give them an excuse. The typical Democrat will look at this article and just praise Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to the heavens. Oh, look what they're trying to do for the people. Aren't they great? No, they're not great, because they should have done this a long time ago. They should have pushed harder. They should have been smarter. They should have been much faster. There's no excuse. Let's see here. Republicans in the Senate had been fighting to trim back the $600 benefit, saying it must be slashed so that people don't make more in unemployment than they would if they returned to work. But their resolve weakened as the benefit expired, and Trump abruptly undercut their position by signaling he wants to keep the full $600 for now. So these politicians, especially on the GOP side, who are often wealthy, who have power, say that they don't want people to make more in unemployment than they would if they returned to work. Why is that the way these people think? It should be okay for people to earn money that is just barely enough to live. This has so many layers. The fact that a lot of people are on minimum wage, and then that turns into even working full time is not enough to live. Now you have this $600 jobless benefit that is now expired. But even when they were getting it, it's still not enough. Maybe it's more than they were making, but it's still not enough. It's nowhere near enough. If minimum wage had kept up with inflation, we would have been closer to a $24 an hour minimum wage, not $15 an hour, and not even lower as many places still are. So for these Republicans to say, oh, I don't want them to make more. Well, go away. You're rich. You don't care. You don't care about the people. You don't understand the struggles of real people. And they also say, it's making people not want to return to work. Maybe in a few cases that's true, but even still, it's based on the fact that people aren't earning enough at their jobs to begin with. It's something that these politicians need to realize. Also, even if people who are getting the unemployment benefits, and hopefully they will be reinstated, even if they wanted to return to work, and so many people do, believe it or not, people don't want to just sit around the house all day. They want to work, they want to contribute, they want to earn, they want to be valued. Even if they wanted to return to work, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Where are they going to go to work? So many people can't return to work. So Republicans are so disgusting that they are willing to spout these talking points and completely get away from the realities. Heartless. On Friday, Trump used Twitter to explicitly endorse extending the $600 payment and to criticize Schumer, of course. Washington's top power players agree that Congress must pass further relief in the coming days and weeks. At stake beyond the $600 per week jobless benefit is a fresh $1,200 direct payment to most Americans and hundreds of billions of dollars in other aid to states, businesses, and the poor, among other elements. So again, the $1,200 per person will be welcome by many people, but it's immediately going to go towards fixing the family car, or it's going to go towards paying off some debt to try to stave off an eviction, or it's going to go to medical bills, or it's going to go to student debt that's building and building and building, even though people have been or either in forbearance or their payments have been put off by the companies. So the money is probably already spent and spoken for on basic necessities or debts or whatever that society has put upon people. So none of it's enough. And they talk about additional benefits to businesses. Yeah, we have to keep our businesses going, but when it was revealed where some of these payments were actually going and how much some of these businesses and business owners actually got, it's a list of people and companies who didn't deserve it or need it. So it's either way, people aren't getting what they deserve. I think that's it for this article. I'll put it in the chat. See if I missed anything. Smash that like button if you haven't already, and share it on all your social channels. Looks like we have some suppression to deal with today, of course. And also subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. So, let's see if I missed anything. Hannah says, can we call homeless encampments Trump bills? Yeah, I think we can, but we also have to realize and recognize that it's not just, people aren't homeless just because of Trump. People are homeless because we live in a corrupt, undemocratic society that isn't supportive of everyday working class people. Let's see. Jilly says they do not care about others. That makes them super predators. I agree. It's the people who are in office absolutely, for the most part, do not care about everyday people. Really, really sad. But here's some good news. We've talked about some sad stuff so far. So here's some news that will hopefully pump you up a bit, because people are fighting back. People are not willing to just sit back and do nothing. So this is out of Vice News. Anti-eviction protesters just blocked people from entering a New Orleans courthouse. As state moratoriums on evictions expire, activists are attempting to physically block court evictions across the country. A massive, and you can see some of the people here. I have much better photos to show you though in the next tab. A massive anti-eviction protesters effectively walled off the entrances to a New Orleans courthouse Thursday, with activists demanding that government officials spare struggling renters from homelessness during the COVID-19 pandemic. The protesters, part of a demonstration that was supported by the New Orleans Renters' Rights Assembly, stood in front of entrances with signs that read, "Keep eviction courts closed, evict the courts, and cancel rent," according to a live stream of the protest. At times, protesters chanted, "Court is closed," or kept people from entering the courthouse by grouping together in a tight-knit crowd. Some protesters wore chains around their waists, according to photos published by NOLA.com. The demonstration, which was held at the First City Court, led to the rescheduling of some cases, although it wasn't immediately clear how many eviction cases were delayed there. According to NOLA.com, 343 eviction cases have been filed in the First City Court in the past 7 weeks. So this is good. This is progress. We've said it on this channel over and over again that if people want real change, if people, let me take a sip here. If people want real change, they need to be knocking on the doors of power. They need to be taking actions just like this. Nothing will change unless the people stand up and fight back. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about doing things like this that are disruptive to courts trying to evict people. Actions that, get people out in the streets. And we need a heck of a lot more people out in the streets protesting. We've had a surge in protests for Black Lives Matter in support of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many others. It's wonderful. It's great. It's past 2 months of these protests, and it is making a difference. It has to continue, of course. But people also have to be out in the streets about the working class. The fact that, let me try to find the CNET chart to show you that Jordan had shown you previously. CNET eviction chart. Let's see. I don't see it. CNET eviction. Sorry guys, 1 second here. Where is it? I don't know. If anyone knows where the chart is that CNET did that shows the potential percentages of evictions, let me know in each state. Okay, so I'll just move on. Let me switch my screen here. So specifically, at the First City Court, 343 eviction cases have been filed in the past 7 weeks. That is going to get much, much worse. That is going to grow because the benefit, the $600 unemployment benefit ran out. That $1,200 check has long run out. So these cases are just going to grow and grow and grow. These cases were filed before the unemployment benefit went away. So it's just going to get so much worse. All of the judges, attorneys, litigants, witnesses, and visitors seeking entry to the courthouse were affected in one way or another by the activities outside of the courthouse, not just the parties to eviction proceedings. Walt Pierce, a spokesperson for the Orleans Parish Civil District Court, said in an emailed statement, "Judges are rescheduling cases where needed for that very reason." That is a win. Forcing judges to reschedule cases is a major win. It has to keep going. People have to keep protesting. Demonstrators protesting evictions have blocked off both entrances to First City Court, which handles evictions on the East Bank for rents less than $3,000. Most New Orleans evictions. So there was a pandemic-related moratorium on evictions, but it ended on June 15th. Of course, that could have been extended by the powers that be, and it wasn't. So now jobless renters are suddenly vulnerable to homelessness, of course. Pierce said eviction cases have carried on since then, adding that where the law allows for evictions to proceed, the judges must follow the law. But the New Orleans protesters want the protections back. The governor hasn't listened. The mayor hasn't listened. Frank Southall, an organizer with the New Orleans Renters' Rights Assembly, told NOLA.com, "Reclose eviction court until you have a plan." A wonderful idea. So then they talk about this happening across the country, what's going on in Kansas City. Let me now show you, now that you know the story behind this, let me show you some powerful images. This is on NOLA.com. These protesters are chaining themselves together in front of the court, right in front of the court, in protest. This has made a difference. These protesters aren't being violent, but they are disrupting the eviction of jobless people. You can see people putting their hands up, keep eviction court closed. Protesters supported by the New Orleans Renters' Rights Assembly carry furniture to the front steps of First City Court as part of the protest. And the deputies are there. So you can see it's a lot of people, a lot of support. It could grow and grow and grow. And I suspect that protests like this will grow. It happened with the George Floyd protests, where, of course, the main protests were at first in Minneapolis, and then they spread state to state, city to city, and it's still going. So now we have the people in New Orleans setting an example for others. So you could see this happening, popping up everywhere. And as I said, since these benefits have expired, and since politicians have no clue what's coming next, the people have no clue what's coming next, and so many people are about to get evicted, this, I think, will grow, and I think it needs to grow, and the people out there need to take action. The people, the powers that be, are not just going to say, okay, you know, we'll stop evictions for right now if nobody protests, if there's nothing at stake for them. They aren't going to, you know, the Congress is not going to say, okay, you guys can have back the $600 unemployment benefit. Okay, you can have this check. It has to come from the pressures of the people, because the people in power don't care. You have to make them care. So I definitely predict that we will see a lot more working class people fighting back in the form of protest, in the form of blocking off eviction court proceedings, for example. So well done to those protesters. Let me peek in the super chat. Maybe someone's found that chart for me. Ooh, some more super chats. Thank you, guys. Let me scroll up and read them. One second. Scrolling. Salty Cynic, $10 super chat sticker. Thank you. Amazing. Jacqueline DeBlue. Yay! 50 pounds in the super chat. As I said yesterday, I don't even have words to thank you anymore. You're just such a wonderful person. You are so supportive. It's really heartwarming. Just, I don't know. It's people like you who keep us going, truly. And you're just such a sweetheart. Thank you. So Jacqueline says, oops, really late today. Nothing relevant or edifying to contribute as usual. No, that's not true. Especially as I haven't been listening, so not sure about the topics. Although I suspect I mostly agree with you. Also, lovely top 10. Thank you. It's actually something I found several years ago we have a local consignment shop. So it's probably like $3 or something, but thank you. You guys are awesome. Keep the super chats coming. I also want to remind you to join as a member of Status Coup. So when you become a member of Status Coup at statuscoup.com/join, you are first of all making it possible for us to do our in-field and investigative reporting. So for just $5 a month, you'll get behind the scenes video diaries from Jordan, Jen, and the crew, and new ones from Jordan and Colin, our wonderful, wonderful video editor, will be posted very, very soon, right after I end this stream. You'll get behind the scenes reporting and bonus content, plus you'll get monthly member calls. So if you are thinking that $5 a month doesn't help us, it's not true. It helps us so much, truly, because that $5, it all adds up when you have, right now we're 200 members away, just about, from reaching 2,000. We were super close before COVID, but due to COVID and unemployment and things like that, people have had to cancel their memberships. So we're working to get back to 2,000 members. We have some great stuff in the works for members. It's going to be exciting. So if you want to help real in-field and investigative reporting, then definitely support us by becoming a member. Just $5 a month, $5. statuscoup.com/join. Plus, the very favorite thing of our members is that we have member calls frequently, sometimes once a month, sometimes more. And on these member calls, you get to ask Jordan and I anything you want. Jordan and me. Yeah, you get to ask Jordan and me anything you want. Any of your burning questions you have, you can make comments. We chat back and forth. We get to know each other. That's worth the $5 a month on its own. It's so wonderful to meet all of you in like a closer capacity and to truly interact. So lots of fun. statuscoup.com/join. I will be so excited if we get some members today. So if you're not a member yet, or if you've canceled previously, either re-up or sign up. And also keep those super chats coming. All right, I have a couple more stories. Oh, 1 second. Let me look at the chat. Rounded Thought says, Jen, how can I support or sponsor someone who lost membership or can't afford it? That is so incredible. Rounded Thoughts, you can definitely do that. Email us at info@statuscoup.com. So email us at info@statuscoup.com and just tell us that you want to sponsor someone or multiple someones or whatever, and I will set it up manually. You are a total hero. That's incredible. Definitely email me at info@statuscoup.com and I will set that up for you. That goes for everyone. If you want to sponsor, let's see. If you want to sponsor someone for 5 people or 10 people or 30 people or 100 people, you can. Just email us at info@statuscoup.com. Tell me how many people you want to sponsor for membership, and we'll do it. And so you're helping Status Coup, but you're also helping people who can't afford it or who are going through hard times right now, who don't have the finances. So you're being a hero in multiple ways. You can also sign up your pets. Cats and dogs are more than welcome to join Status Coup. All they need is a different email address. statuscoup.com/join. So just a couple more stories. Get rid of that. I'm going to touch on this quickly. Why isn't this loading? Come on, Vanity Fair. What you doing? Here we go. Oh boy. let's talk more about Trump, but not for the sake of talking about Trump. Let's talk about the militarization of protests, basically, of dealing with protesters who, of course, have been protesting for Black lives, for police to not murder Black people. You would think that's a simple request, but we have a long history of it, and it continues. So Trump has been sending in federal troops to, formerly Washington, D.C. And up until recently, I need to check in on this, but I don't know if they've pulled all the troops out of Portland, Oregon, but they've at least pulled out a large number, and you'll see the result of that. I'll show you on the next tab. So Trump has plans or wants to send in even more federal troops. So his whole thing is, of course, law and order. And they talk about in this article, this Vanity Fair article, about Mayor Ted Wheeler of Portland, who himself got tear gassed, and he's spoken out against the federal presence because it really, really it ramps things up. When there are federal troops, things go wrong. These troops are aggressive. They are vicious. They don't care about shooting someone with a rubber bullet, at a very close range. They call these less lethal weapons. They can still be lethal. They don't care about tear gassing people who are, again, simply protesting for Black lives to not be killed by police. They don't have a care in the world except for being mean, terrible people, being violent against peaceful protesters. So when you have these troops who look scary and ominous and very, very militarized, that gets a certain energy going in the crowd. That's scary, especially for Black people and brown people who have had all negative experiences with police, and especially those with riot gear on. So that gets the tension going in the crowd. So what was a peaceful protest now turns into this very tense feeling. And I saw this in DC. I did a few times. I went to DC and reported from there, and there was a huge difference between when federal troops were there, which was very tense, and protesters did things like throwing bottles back at the police, throwing their tear gas back at them, which good, and just being more tense. Just more things happen, more bad things happen, more arrests happen, more tension happens, more aggression towards the police happens, and then it goes back and forth, and then things escalate even more because the protesters get even more pissed off at the troops or the police. So it just heightens everything. It's really bad. And when the troops were pulled out of DC, and then I went back to the protests, things were so peaceful. People were still protesting. People were still having their voices heard, but there wasn't any violence. There wasn't any tension. There were powerful speeches given by everyday people. There was at one point Bob Marley's daughter was there singing in the streets. They had block parties at the new Black Lives Matter Plaza. Things calmed way the heck down. There wasn't any issue at all. It was the federal troops that heightened everything and caused everything. And people need to realize that. And that's what we're going to see in Portland. Or that's what we already have seen in Portland. That's what we will see happen, that dynamic, if federal troops are sent in elsewhere. So Trump is claiming that federal properties in these cities, and specifically in this case in Portland, wouldn't last a day without the deployed officers. And according to the Washington Post, he's sending in even more. The U.S. Marshal Service decided to deploy more deputies last week, and DHS is planning to send an additional 50 Customs and Border Protection agents. This would be a considerable escalation in the federal presence, a tactic that the Post notes has exhausted federal resources before it exhausted the protesters. Federal law enforcement officials reportedly fear that existing personnel will not be able to control the streets, where crowds are growing more aggressive and nightly street battles are gaining more media attention. So, Vanity Fair, you get this wrong. The crowds are growing aggressive because of the police and because of the militarization of the police and because of these federal troops. Let's see. Meanwhile, officials and protesters elsewhere in the country fear the same tactics will land on their doorsteps. Aurora Mayor Mike Hoffman, per the Post, worried that his local police were facing protesters who had been radicalized by the clashes they had heard about in Portland. Or, Mike Hoffman, is it that the police and the federal troops have been radicalized? Yeah, I think that's the one. Aurora cannot become a Portland, he wrote. Other cities where protests are ongoing also saw an uptick in violence this weekend, the AP notes. In Oakland, California, protesters set a courthouse on fire. In Richmond, Virginia, the same was done to vehicles, and an armed protester was fatally shot at a demonstration in Texas. So I want to apologize for making you go through this article, because clearly Vanity Fair has a certain spin that they're putting on everything. They're putting everything on the protesters. But let's go to another article where we get a different scene. So this is out of The Guardian. Portland sees peaceful night of protests following the withdrawal of federal agents. So maybe it isn't those mean old protesters who are causing everything. Maybe it's the troops after all. The withdrawal of federal agents from frontline policing of demonstrations in downtown Portland significantly reduced tensions in the city overnight. Protesters in support of Black Lives Matter once again rallied near the federal courthouse that became a flashpoint and the scene of nightly battles amid the swirl of tear gas, after Donald Trump dispatched agents to end what he called anarchy in the city after weeks of demonstrations. But in the absence of federal officers, Thursday night's protests passed off without major incident or intervention by the police. On Wednesday, Oregon's Governor Kate Brown agreed with the White House that the state police would take over responsibility for guarding the courthouse after weeks of escalating protests. She said that Trump's troops were behaving like an occupying army in Portland and provoking unrest with heavy-handed tactics. In contrast, the state troopers did not intervene even when the scale of the protest on Thursday night passed the point, as demonstrators shook the fence around the courthouse, at which in early demonstrations the federal agents generally fired tear gas, stun grenades, and baton rounds. In the absence of confrontation, and with the state police remaining largely unseen inside the courthouse, tensions quickly eased. Without the federal forces to draw attention, protest organizers kept the focus on Black Lives Matter and reform of the Portland police. Some in the crowd worked to avoid trouble by stopping demonstrators from lighting fires and shooting fireworks at the courthouse, as they had done on previous nights. And that's something that I saw a lot in DC too, where of course there are going to be a few bad apples in any group gathering. So you have these bad apples who are just there to cause destruction and drama. But then you have the real protesters who are there to protest for Black lives, who are there to demand changes in police, who demand police reform, who are there for the right reasons. So these protesters who have their mind focused on the mission, they stop these other protesters. They sort of self-police in a way. They don't want the demonstrations to be violent. They don't want it to get out of hand. They stop these people. And when certain people start to escalate and get angry, they help to calm people down. You see it over and over again. But when federal troops are there, that's all out the door. It's an instinct. It's you're trying to save your life when you see these federal troops. It's something you have to fight back against. But when they're gone, the protesters protest for Black lives and police reform. Of course. And that's what they're seeing now in Portland. Let's see. Yeah, so some in the crowd worked to avoid trouble. I already read that. So Dan Thomas, an African-American man, stood in the street shouting at people not to cause a confrontation with the state police. Attacking the federal building is not Black Lives Matter. Leave it alone. You're playing into Trump's hands, he said. One woman shouted, "Stupid-ass white people only here for their own reasons," which often true. Despite the concerns of many in the crowd that the Trump administration would not fulfill the agreement to pull back the federal officers, none were seen on the streets. Trump tweeted that the agents would remain in Portland until Brown brings the protest led by anarchists and agitators under control. If she can't do it, the federal government will do it for her. We will not be leaving until there's safety, Trump wrote. Wheeler, the mayor, said that the city's police, state troopers, and county sheriff's office had agreed not to use tear gas except where there was a threat to life or of serious injury. So the federal officers are using CS gas broadly, indiscriminately, and nightly, he said. That is why it is escalating, the behavior we're seeing on the streets, rather than de-escalating it, and that's why this must come to an end. So, you know, that's good news out of Portland, and that's something that we need to think about as Trump threatens to send in more federal troops. The mayors, the governors, whoever is, you know, in charge needs to demand that Trump not do this. It really only escalates things. It does no good, and it costs a hell of a lot of money. It sends many more people to jail. It hurts many more people. It's just bad. It's a bad idea all around. Trump is trying to be this strong man, but all he does is make things worse, as is typical with Trump in every regard. Let's see. Let me look at the chat really quick before I move on to a topic that is really sad. Sorry to bring another sad one to you. And I also need, hold on, it takes a while to scroll through. And I need to send a quick message. Hold on, guys. Hold on 1 second. Almost done. Okay. Sent that. Okay. Now, so as we know, there are a lot of schools that are threatening to open or have already opened, and it's not good. You know, every sane person thinks about the number of children that are in especially public schools, and it's not good. We saw a school that opened this past week and they already had to close down because there was a COVID case. It's just not good. But here's a very specific example, and really sad example for all these kids who have been exposed and the damage this is going to do to so many lives. You know, if these kids, which that's in the story that we're going to talk about, if these kids have COVID, think about all their family members who are going to catch COVID. Think of anyone they've been in contact with. It's really, really, really scary. So this story is about a Georgia camp. And before I fully move on, remember, join as a member of Status Coup, statuscoup.com/join. Get your Status Coup mask, which I'll put in the chat. Just about 15 bucks, and half of that goes to us here at Status Coup. Get your mask, get your mask. All right, let's be sad now. 260 children and staff at Georgia overnight camp test positive for coronavirus, CDC says. The camp did not require its more than 360 campers who ranged in age from 6 to 19 to wear masks. So out of 360 campers, 260 got coronavirus. Oh my gosh. Some schools have 1,000 kids. Some schools have 2,000 kids. Imagine how many individuals, how many children and teachers and staff are going to get COVID if these schools open up in mass, and how many people are going to spread it to. There are no words. That 260 children at this one camp got COVID. It doesn't make any sense. Why did they open? The camp I send my kids to every summer rightfully closed for the summer. There was no other choice. Why is this camp open? A coronavirus, and this is in NBC News, a coronavirus outbreak was reported at an overnight summer camp in Georgia that did not require campers to wear face masks. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released a study Friday on the outbreak that infected 260 campers and staff, saying that it shows children are susceptible to the virus and play an important role in transmission. The camp held an orientation for 120 staff members and more than 130 trainees in mid-June, according to its Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. The staff members stayed at the camp and on June 21st were joined by more than 360 campers ranging in age from 6 to 19. Days later, on June 23rd, a teenage staff member left after developing chills and later tested positive for the coronavirus. The camp began to send people home the following day and alerted the state's Department of Public Health. Among the 260 positive tests, 231 were for people aged 17 or younger. Settings like multi-day, overnight summer camps pose a unique challenge when it comes to preventing the spread of infectious diseases, considering the amount of time campers and staff members spend in close proximity, the CDC said in a press release. The CDC did not name the camp in its study, but the YMCA of Metro Atlanta released a statement saying that it made every effort to keep Camp High Harbor safe. Attending Camp High Harbor is a tradition numerous generations of Y families look forward to every summer. Many of these individuals reached out to the Y to express their desire for us to open our resident camps in an effort to create normalcy in their children's lives due to the detrimental impact of COVID-19, the statement said. This weighed heavily in our decision to open, a decision, in retrospect, we now regret. Okay, so this was about making money. This was about not caring or understanding how dangerous COVID actually is. And, again, I'll emphasize, this was about money. That's the reason they opened. And the YMCA, if indeed that was the camp that it put these children and staff members' lives at risk, and everybody, all of those 260 people come in contact with, the YMCA needs to be held accountable. It shouldn't have even been allowed for a summer camp to open. Georgia should have shut that down before it even started. So now they say, a decision in retrospect we now regret. So the summer camp, that is the cause of so many people getting this horrible disease, this part of this pandemic, part of spreading this pandemic, they're most likely not going to see any penalties for this. They got some money, they're good. And you have to think about all of the people who are around the country who don't believe in COVID or have conspiracies around COVID, who have no issue sending their kids to school, who I don't remember if I already said it, but who won't wear a mask, who think it's like unmasculine to wear a mask or just a hoax to wear a mask, or think coronavirus is a hoax altogether. When you add up all those people, they're the reason why cases are surging. They're the reason why we are to this place we're in, where so many people have died, so many people are sick, so many people have now a lifelong condition due to COVID. So it's on all of those people who are not taking this seriously. It's also on Donald Trump. It's on anyone in the specific case of this Georgia camp who could have shut this down before it started and who didn't. Just another example of COVIDiots, as some people call them. There's a Reddit now, I think a not found, about COVIDiots. So here we go. But this is real life. Like this really is happening. Unbelievable. Just one more story left. Let me check in with you guys in the chat. Yeah, and think about all those parents who sent their child to this summer camp. They clearly didn't think it was an issue. I don't understand these people at all. Christopher Raymond says Dr. Fauci lied to the world live on TV. No. There are a lot of rumors and conspiracy theories surrounding Dr. Fauci that just are not true. Dr. Fauci, I think Nancy Pelosi today was really down on Birx, but Fauci has done a great service to this country, and I think we can't just say that he hasn't, or say that he's lied. We don't have evidence of that. So kudos to Fauci. One more story, as I said. Please smash the like button if you haven't already. Share the stream if you haven't already. And most of all, subscribe to this channel if you're new here. Double check. We've had some people who've said, oh, I checked my subscriptions and I was unsubscribed by YouTube from your channel. So double check and make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube is really not on the Coup train. So subscribe if you haven't. Double check that you're subscribed. Tell your friends and family. We need to get to 100,000 subscribers fast. And not only because we get a fancy plaque from YouTube if we get there, but because it helps more people see our videos. The more subscribers we have, the more subscribers we'll get. And okay, so George E says he said not to wear masks. He admitted that he lied. No, he didn't admit that he lied. He was misinformed. Like, people were learning on the fly about COVID and like what to do. Now, what you guys are probably talking about with him supposedly lying is that they told people to not wear masks because they wanted there to be enough supplies for medical workers and other essential workers. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason to think that's not true. I think that probably is true. They wanted to make sure that like nurses and doctors had masks, so they didn't want people to run out and just buy up all the N95 masks. So whatever you want to call it, like, Dr. Fauci I don't think was malicious, and you can call it a lie if you want, but I don't know, seems to make sense. And now we know, wear a mask. So wear a mask, and specifically wear, hold on, where'd it go? Here we go. Wear this mask, the status quo mask. Oh, Anthony Martino gives us an update that his GoFundMe is up to $12,175. Whoa. And he says, thank you, community. We love you all. Anthony, if you want to plug in your GoFundMe link, go ahead and do that. And Ahmad can approve it because you have to approve the link. Okay, last story. I know we're all getting tired. I don't even know how long I've been live streaming. My voice is is getting foggy or getting strained. Oh, okay. Gino says he said that in a testimony before Congress. Okay, I'll look more into it, but in the end, here we are. We know we need to use a mask. Okay. So this is a topic that I'm going to do a lot more reporting on, because the Lincoln Project, in my opinion, is a ridiculous organization run by ridiculous people. They drive me crazy. The Lincoln Project's plan for preserving the Union: drive Trump out of office by driving him nuts. Oh, so you guys, you Republicans, you people with a history of misdeeds, you're going to save the planet or our country by being mean to Donald Trump. That's it. They're focused on one person, Donald Trump. And people, like what I call normie Dems, are buying into this like crazy. They're welcoming these Republicans. They're sharing the Lincoln Project's ads. They're so excited. It's very like Hillary-esque. Like there's no substance here. Literally all they're doing is trolling Trump, and they admit that he's their target. Trump doesn't care about you, Lincoln Project. Like all he has to do is as he already has done, is say like give the Lincoln Project like a silly name or something, and then his base doesn't care. It's not. This isn't gonna win any voters. This isn't like if someone is about to vote for Trump, but they see a Lincoln Project ad, they're not gonna all of a sudden say, okay, I'm on board for Biden now. And if people were already gonna vote for Biden, they're not, like, they're already voting for Biden, so no big deal. And those are the people who are actually sharing this stuff. And if people are voting Green Party or are not voting out of protest or whatever, those people are not going to be swayed because the Lincoln Project trolls Trump. No one cares. Go away, Lincoln Project. And they've only been around since December, and they have earned so much money. It's scary how many people have given, organizations or whoever's giving to this. Why? Awful, terrible strategy. Your house is on fire. Do you care who the firemen are? And this is Washington Post. That is a central question of the 2020 election. Donald Trump has managed to do one thing no other president has done: bring Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and progressives, boomers and millennials together in unprecedented numbers to try to defeat him in November. For Americans who believe the president is a raging threat to democracy, purity tests are out, results are in. These never Trumpers and Biden Democrats love to talk about purity tests, which explains the spectacular rise of the Lincoln Project, a group of Republican never Trumpers who have moved rent-free into the president's head. Or have they? No, I don't think they have. The president doesn't care. He doesn't care about you guys. Their viral videos and tweets mocking his leadership, his intelligence, and his patriotism, aimed both at Republican voters who are wavering and Trump himself, have attracted millions of dollars via donors from both parties. More than 10,000 people showed up for a virtual town hall last month. Lifelong Democrats are organizing fundraisers for the project. The Morning in America ad attacks Trump's mismanagement of the coronavirus outbreak. Hashtag Trump is not well questions his mental and physical fitness. Bounty asks why Trump won't confront Vladimir Putin about U.S. intelligence reports that Russia offered bounties for the killing of American soldiers in Afghanistan. So, they think, do they truly think that hashtag Trump not well is swaying any voters? I'm so confused. It's like, what was Nancy Pelosi's ridiculous nickname for Trump the other day? It was like Mr. I can't remember. If you remember, put in the super chat what Nancy Pelosi called Trump. It was so stupid. But you would expect nothing less from the Biden wing. The ads are slick, scathing, and more shocking than anything Joe Biden's official campaign has produced. The newest release, Wake Up, is a dark comic satire about a coma victim hearing about Trump's last 3 years. Republicans, we need to wake up. This guy was in a coma. What's your excuse? So lame. Oh, sorry, that's ableist. I apologize. It's also just say ridiculous again. Donald Trump is so completely at odds with every institution in America and so completely at odds with anything that the Republican Party allegedly stood for. The rule of law, constitutional fealty, institutions, norms, traditions, all of those things are out the window, says Rick Wilson, a co-founder of the group. So you're either going to make a choice between Trump or this country. We made the choice for the country, even if it doesn't immediately seem to fit with all of our ideological or political priors. Let's see here. So people just talking about, like, they'll do anything so Trump isn't elected. 3 of the Lincoln Project founders, Wilson, Steve Schmidt, and George T. Conway III, Kellyanne's hubby, sat down this week to talk about their motives and their methodology. Wilson and Schmidt are longtime hired guns for Republican candidates, George W. Bush, John McCain, and many more. Conway, a lawyer and spouse of presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway, has a long career representing Republican clients. Schmidt is the firebrand, furious and effusive. Wilson is shrewd and sly. And Conway is fiercely protective of the Constitution, which he feels Trump has repeatedly violated. I don't think explaining Rick Wilson as shrewd and sly is in any way accurate. The 3 didn't know each other well before December when they founded the group, named after the president who led the United States through its bloodiest, most divisive, and most decisive period of our history. They talk about Trump being a narcissist. What that means in practical terms is that the Lincoln Project ads are specifically designed to trigger the president. Whenever Trump is reacting to a Lincoln Project ad, he's talking about things he shouldn't be talking about. He's explaining why he inched down the ramp at the U.S. Military Academy or drank water with 2 hands. He's shooting off a tweet about the Morning in America ad, thereby raising millions of dollars for the Lincoln Project. The group approaches its task with a military precision, with a few dozen staffers churning out new videos overnight. Wilson says, it's this concept of moving faster than your enemy's ability to decide to act in a battle. These people are just so out of touch. You can call it trolling, and it is. The Lincoln Project buys ad time in Washington and Bedminster for an audience of 1. He is a creature who exists only on television, the Chauncey Gardner of our time, says Wilson. The fact that we're able to use his mental infirmity and addiction to television to freeze him and manipulate him serves a broader purpose for the overall campaign in terms of taking him off message, disorganizing, and disorienting him. As much as I despise Trump, these guys, this Lincoln Project is no match for Trump. Trump has an ability to, like, he's, I think, the best PR person in the world. Otherwise, how is he president? And these 3 Republicans who really are nobodies, they're making, like, grade school level ads against Trump. Yes, sure, Trump has an ego where he doesn't like being teased about walking weirdly down a ramp. He doesn't like he wanted to prove that he could drink water with 1 hand after he had previously drank water with 2 hands. So sure, maybe you get a little bit of reaction. I think more likely the Lincoln Project was just one of many, 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 many people who were making fun of Trump for those things. So when it's all put together, yeah, it does get to Trump. It's not something he enjoys, but he also is, like, the best at fighting back. If you look on Wikipedia, there's a list of nicknames that Trump has had for people, and I dare you to make it through that list without laughing. Trump can sometimes be funny, but he's a shrewd PR person. He knows what to do. The Lincoln Project is just, it doesn't have it. It's not, it has no heart. And it's truly targeting one person in a very weird, ineffective way. So they're saying this is to help Biden. And this is a good point. You would be mistaken in believing the Lincoln Project was created to atone for past sins. Yes, there have been plenty of Republicans who have asked if their efforts over the past decades made a Trump presidency possible. What part did they play? What did they miss, ignore, or tolerate? Republican consultant Stuart Stevens believes the president is a natural product of the seeds of race, self-deception, and anger that became the essence of the Republican Party. Over the past 50 years, Trump isn't an aberration of the Republican Party. He is the Republican Party in a purified form. I absolutely believe that. I absolutely believe that Donald Trump is the result of, from both parties, ineffective leadership. Trump got a lot of voters because of the way he fakely approached the working class people, of the things he said that he was against, that he wasn't really. But in the Republican Party has become so disgusting that Trump really is the Republican Party distilled. He is power in this country distilled. It's purest form. So these people are not, like, they don't think they've done wrong things, or they aren't sorry for the things they've done in their lives. So one question, of course, is whether the Lincoln Project ads are preaching to the choir, Democrats and other never-Trumpers, or if they have the ability to sway voters who identify as Republican. I, of course, think the answer to that is no. And then it talks about other tactics, swaying Republicans to vote for Trump by giving testimonies of people who voted for Trump in 2016 and are not voting for him this year. So then they go on to say, you know, the Joe Biden wing and these never-Trumpers are working for the same goal. They are, these ideological opponents are are allied in the short term, according to them. So it goes on. I'll put it in the, well, it's an archive link actually, because the Washington Post, I couldn't remember our password for it. So here's the link to that article. So I think I've been streaming for at least almost 3 hours, which is a lot. So thank you guys all. I want to give some final reminders. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're new, subscribe. Double check that you're still subscribed. Smash the like button still. There's still time if you haven't yet. Share all of our content. It really helps if you go through and share our content on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever you can. It really, really helps. So maybe you can't donate or join as a member, but you can definitely share it, and it helps us so much. I'll answer a few questions, leave any questions you have before I sign off. I also want to remind you that you can be a super cool mask wearer by wearing the Status Coup mask. Half of your purchase price goes to us, helps us keep reporting. So you get to look awesome in a Status Coup mask. You get to put some safety in between you from COVID. It is not an N95 mask. It is not medical grade, but it's a cloth cotton mask. So beware of that. But buy it for your friends, your family, for you. It comes in all sorts of colors, as I've shown you before. You can get gray, black, coral, green, white, light blue, red, and purple. Gino Fast, $4.99 in the super chat. Good job, Jen. Thank you, Gino. You're very, very sweet. Lily says, 3 hours already. Wow, time went by fast. It did go by fast. It's surprising. I don't think I've live streamed this long, like with Jordan, but not by myself. So it went really, really fast. Mill Bailey says, thanks, Jen. Thank you guys. Thank you guys all for watching. Anony says, ordered my mask and sticker a couple days ago. Yay! I'm so happy. Whenever people have Status Coup gear, it makes me so happy. There have been people who have gear when they see us out in the field, and it's so great. And people send us pictures of them in their gear, and that's like when your mask arrives, when your Status Coup mask arrives, take a picture of yourself and send it to us at info@statuscoup.com. We'll show you on the stream. We love it. We also, I want to remind you, join as a member of Status Coup. Just $5 a month. It really, really helps us. We need to get our numbers up. To be very frank with you, we've lost a lot of members, about 200, due to COVID, due to people's hardships. So if you are able to join at $5 a month, you get things like behind the scenes videos, member diaries from all of us, the whole Coup crew, and you get behind the scenes photos and things like that. And you get member calls, which are at least held monthly, sometimes more. You can ask us all your most burning questions. You can chat with us. We all get to know each other more, and it's just a great time. So statuscoup.com/join. Even if you think, oh, it's only $5, it doesn't really help. It helps. It helps us so much. And every new member, you'll hear when Jordan's live streaming, you'll hear a not cheer in the background. But trust me, we are all cheering. All Status Coup members are cheering for you when you join. So please join statuscoup.com/join. And I love you all. I thank you all so much for joining me on this Sunday. And definitely check back in tomorrow. Oh, Gino asks, how do we know when the member calls are? We will try to get better at planning the member call. Unfortunately, like with reporting, things are often up in the air and we have to make sure we're available. So usually we tell you like a few days before. So we'll tell you on the live streams, we'll email you, put it out on social media and all that stuff. And I email people on the day of, like all members, I email and give you the link how to join and all that. So we want as many people as possible on the August monthly call. And we want new members to join. statuscoup.com/join. I'll plug it over and over because it's great. It's the best membership on the web, and it truly goes toward important investigative and in-field reporting. Gino, a text? Well, I don't. I could send a text. I definitely, I wouldn't send a text with the actual link because obviously a lot of people or some people on that list are not members. So I'll figure it out, but a text is a good idea to let people know when it's going to be and maybe even give people a join link. So Gino, good idea. Oh, Gino, yes, thanks for the reminder. You will not get notified typically by YouTube if we're live. So text COUP to 370-370. Get your phone out right now so you don't forget and text COUP to 370-370. And so to kind of get around YouTube's lack of notifying people that we're live, we send you a text. So we've been doing it for every live stream lately and it's been working really pretty well. So yeah, text Coup to 370-370. Thank you for the reminder, Gino. And if you guys have any local stories, I'm actually going to start live streaming. This is news. I'm actually going to start live streaming probably noon or 1 or so on weekdays, reporting on local stories and underreported stories. So it would really be great if you have a local story in your area, if you see something that's underreported or unreported, email me at info@statuscoup.com and let me know what it is. Give me, links to check it out or whatever. So email me stories, and hopefully you guys will like the kind of midday news update. And yes, as Michael says, you can follow us on Twitch too, twitch.tv/statuscoup. And yes, Gino says texts are best. Okay. As I said, I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me this Sunday. I hope you all are healthy and well. If you are not healthy and well, then, love and best wishes to you. If you have a great story, either about yourself, your dealings with COVID, local stories, info@statuscoup.com. What else? Buy a mask and join. All right, bye guys. It's been fun. I'll see you later.